Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Today, I'm Chamberlain. So,
good morning and welcome. It is 28 degrees right here in the nation's capital. And I think today is the very last day of 2025. It's a very beautiful feeling to be here this morning. I'm Kayla Megwa, and Chamberlain, what a year we've had.
Yeah.
What a year it has been, especially for the Nigerian people, for the government, when it comes to policies that have happened this year. I call 2025 the year that we built resilience. The other years we met the shock, new reality, but we started building our resilience in 2025. And as we're entering into an electioneering year, it wouldn't be very smart of the Nigerian people to sit back and watch things unfold. I think this is the time for us to actually sit up and make something of our country.
That resilience is going to be needed next year.
It will.
So they're building it. We should build it with proper foundation, because you will need it next year in a big way, I tell you. Because even the banks don't understand how the tax laws are going to be applied. So everybody just waiting to see, okay, what direction, what do we expect? Because, I mean, at the moment, we know that there are all kinds of charges. There's SMS charge from the banks,
Transaction
card
charge,
maintenance fee from the banks.
Each transaction is a transaction charge.
Each transaction, right?
Yes,
has a charge.
Yes.
And you know what happens these days? I don't know why they changed their strategy. Sometimes the banks will tell you from November 28th to December 15, bam, one weekend, you just see those charges on your phone. You're like, oh my God, you better argue with yourself. You're quarreling or fighting yourself or fighting the phone.
I mean, but you know, one of the biggest things that we're expecting to happen, apart from it being an electionary year, especially for the FCT, remember our area council elections are in February next year.
Yeah.
You know, is in February. But there's also the fact that the tax reforms have been the biggest story in the news. Everyone is trying to understand what it is. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele has explained and explained and explained and explained. But for some reason, I don't know. And he said something very monumental yesterday night at the program, our end of year program. He said one of the most shocking things for him is how the people who are supposed to be taxed right now have convinced those who are going to be exempted from being taxed to fight for their right not to be taxed. Like he said, that they underestimated how that was going to work out. But you see, the thing is, and that was what was brought up to his notice yesterday, the deficit of trust in government. So we're hearing all these things. They look very complicated.
Wait, they're surprised that deficit of trust. They don't know that exists from time immemorial.
Well, he said he does know, but he didn't count on the fact that deficit was so much that the people who are, because 95% of Nigerians, according to him, don't have up to 500,000 naira in their accounts anyway. So you're not really taxable. You're not even in the brackets in the first place. So the idea that those people are fighting for the rights of those who haven't been paying their taxes and are in the tax bracket not to pay their tax, except was the strangest dynamic for him.
There's something they do in I think it's public relations and advertising.
Yeah. When
you write a copy, they say there's this thing they call copy testing. You know, you put it out there for people who you're supposed to, I mean, the end user or the consumer, ask them, what do they think about this? What kind of message does it convey? And then if it doesn't convey the right message, then they go back and retool and rewrite. So I'm not sure they did all of that. You know, part of what they didn't see with this is because, for instance, the stamp duty, or I hope that's the right name. If you transfer money to somebody, usually it is the recipient that pays a certain tax. You know, but now it is whoever is sending the money. So if you're sending it to 5, 10 people, you will automatically pay for all of those 10. So in some cases, people will start thinking, should I send this?
Exactly. So less generous.
So those who are going to receive it will be angry.
I mean,
so what do you expect?
One of the payment platforms released a statement, I think it was yesterday evening, where they were saying, they were trying to explain that, okay, no, it's not as though it's a new thing. You were always being charged. It just comes under a new name. But I think another thing that's happened with these tax reforms is that there's so much of it. There's too much information about it. And for the Nigerian who just wants things to be simple, can you break it down for me? How much is it? You know, it doesn't seem that simple. But he does say that our PAYE would be eradicated and in many cases reduced, especially for low-income earners and for middle-income earners. So let's see when our salaries come. in January. Then we'll know whether Taiwo was telling us the truth or not.
Well, the thing about it is that, look, if they thought that they've spoken a lot, I think they will underestimate what they've done. By the time it's January 1st and it kicks in, you will have to talk. You find yourself seeing that you have to talk way much more than you think or you thought you have done before, because when it now becomes operational, there'll be several questions. The banks, for instance, we understand they then have to keep reporting to the tax authorities every quarter in terms of what's going on with your accounts, your activities, so all of that will happen. So when people don't like that over supervision, they say, what's your business? Why are you keeping that amount of focus on this money that we are managing to make in the first place? Don't forget that people are their own local governments themselves, their own security men. They provide their own power in the country. All of that people do for themselves in this country. It is that same, predominantly that same bracket that you're now imposing all of these things on. And then don't forget, for instance, now, I mean, the EFCC tweeted yesterday that this allegation of 8.7 billion naira for the former AGF, that case is going on. He's been remanded now.
Yes, him, his
split
wife,
into,
and his son.
So to January 2nd, maybe when they start all of that matter. So these kind of cases, it will be really, it will take a different shape. When people see their tax monies going from their accounts or whatever transaction they're doing into government coffers, all kinds of taxes going into government coffers, and then you see public officials living some kind of funny, grandiose lifestyle, there will be questions. You won't be able to parade and do what you think you were doing before the way you were, because now people are expected to be a lot more conscious and ask a lot more questions. There'll be a lot more awareness. How much is taken from my account? Why is this money taken? Where is this money going? So all those questions will be asked. So those governors need to speak.
Yeah, the accountability part of this conversation is one that I think Taiwo Ayodele, the FIRS, and the rest of the team, I've heard them mention it from time to time. But I think I had an interview with Taiwo Ayodele on Hard Copy, and I remember that conversation where I said, listen, are you ready for the questions you're going to be asked? You think you're being asked questions now? Wait until people don't understand what's happening with their money. They will ask you, where did you take my money? What is it for? The Nigerian public, and I'm very proud of this, is that the Nigerian people are changing. We're not as docile as we used to be. It's government, so we don't want to talk about it. But now, since you're insisting that this is what you're going to do, and we have said, okay, sure, let's go ahead, you will have to answer for it. It's kind of the same way the Minister of Power will have to answer, or had to answer for a lot of that banding and the extra money. You have to be able, it's not a problem. I think Nigerian people are pretty simple. If you're providing the service, no problem, I'll pay. But if you're not providing the service and you're charging me for it, then we're going to have a misunderstanding.
And that is even underestimating the fact, because maybe people are just waiting to see when it kicks in. As a matter of fact now, all of these cases, next year, there'll be a lot more questions that will be asked of all of them. All those big convoys, whatever it is that they're doing.
Government officials and the lavish life that they've been living.
They will speak more. They will have to answer more questions. And it's going to be the year preceding elections. So you have a lot more questions that will be out there for them to speak about.
Someone sent us a message. The president said that is if they don't weaponize poverty more next year, where the little that they give you will be enough for you to keep quiet. Someone just said that. Person said that's hoping that they don't weaponize poverty more in 2026, such that you can't even call people up because you're hoping that they'll give you a little of what they have.
What did they give you a little? Because you'll be paying, you'll still be paying those taxes every time, every now and then. So whatever quote-unquote little they give to you, by the time you see money is going out from your account, different places, you forget the little and then you ask questions. Where is this money going? Why are you collecting this money? This bank? What is... Normally, don't you receive... Am I the only one? When those texts come into your phone on weekends...
We close our eyes.
You have to say, oh God, this bank again? What is this money for? So all those questions, we need to ask questions of these leaders. And it will be very interesting. But what a year it's been, I tell you, 2025 wrapping up not in a few hours. Well, yeah, you can call it a few hours.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think over this week we've spoken about different scenarios, unfortunate cases in Lagos, Ibadan Express, I beg your pardon, the Ogun State axis, and then Gombe as well. Unfortunately, some colleagues lost their lives in an accident in Gombe State. So the governor did visit, and so let's have a look at what transpired when he did.
The bus conveying some journalists from Kautungo, Gombe State to the state capital after attending a wedding ceremony of one of their colleagues. 7 persons died in the incident, while 4 others were injured in the accident that occurred in Kumo town on the Gombe-Yola highway.
I want to use this opportunity to commend the effort of Federal Rescue Corps, police, civil defense, and the medical personnel at the 2 hospitals. And I also want to commend the effort of the Gombe State government for their prompt response in this regard.
Funeral prayers are held for the victims of the incident at the palace of the Emir of Gombe. Governor Inuayaya attended the funeral prayers, pledging to cover the funeral expenses. He also pledged to cover the medical bill of the survivors who are receiving treatment at the Federal Teaching Hospital Gombe, describing the incident as tragic.
It's a very tragic loss. You know, the loss of 7 people, talk less of journalists that were relating with almost on a daily basis. Some of them are like my personal staff, even in the government house. So I feel it, and but there's nothing we can do. It is the will of God, and it is their time. They have to answer the call of God. And as a government, we'll take a responsibility for their treatment, and we shall respond accordingly. Whatever it takes, will ensure that they get the best of service that is required for them to recover.
4 out of 7 journalists were buried according to Islamic rites. The prayers were attended by top state government officials and the national president of NUJ.
A moment like this is a clear testimony that death is inevitable and all of us will die one day. And this is a clear indication that we have lost 7 members of our profession. It is a great loss for not only for us, but the entire working profession in Nigeria.
These were people that were so supportive of his administration. These were people that were so dedicated to their job. These were partners in progress and service to the development of Gombe State.
The remaining 3 journalists will be buried at a date scheduled by their families.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Comrade Al-Hassan Yahya, the National President of Nigeria Union of Journalists. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, good morning, somebody.
Well, commiserations to you and our colleagues all over this unfortunate incident. It's always a risky venture when we move around like that, even though our duties are enshrined in the Constitution, but most times we find those in authority acting as though they don't even know what the Constitution is, let alone what our job or where it is situated or enshrined in the laws. But could you give us, first of all, how you received this information when it happened?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, let me begin by saying that already, like I said earlier on, it is inevitable. The day will come when all of us will leave this world. But losing 7 journalists who are trained, just like losing the community. And this is not the first time in Nigeria we're losing them. Remember, in 1982, we lost 3 journalists in Adamawa State. In 2007, we lost 7 journalists in Plateau State. In 2019, we lost 6 journalists in Akwa Ibom. And today, or 2 days ago, we lost 7 journalists who were in a company of colleagues who are taking a wedding of friends in the community not far from the state capital. And this is really tragic. This is unfortunate. But we, as believers, we can't question God. But for us at the NUJ, already we have taken consideration of what we have learned against next year. I remember my sister, the society, not like she interviewed me in one of the families and showed her our plan. If you look at it specifically, research has shown that less than 1% of all journalists in Nigeria have form of insurance. This is very, very important. For us, in 2026, we are prioritizing insurance for journalists, health insurance for journalists, and life insurance for journalists. The health insurance for journalists is having responsibility to achieve three objectives. One of the objectives is to reduce what we call out of pocket. If you look at it, just treatment of malaria for journalists who has very poor nutrition is something that is very, very welcome. So I believe with health insurance, that will go a long way in achieving the objective. And at the same time, I want to see how we can be able to achieve objectives of attaining what we call the universal health coverage. Nigeria is significantly in that. By the time we subscribe and we give our own contributions towards making sure that we are achieving that objective. And the type of objective for women to see how we can be able to reduce what we call maternal mortality. So I think the most important thing, the life insurance is one insurance that we are already planning to commence any moment from now. It is our hope and prayer. Members across the country give us support so that we can be able to have insurance for journalists, both life insurance and health insurance for journalists. And this is very, very important and very, very critical, and at the same time, it's very, very welcome for us as journalists to lose 7 members of our colleagues who have paid them. And I came from that state. As I'm talking to you, I'm calling our making this interview from Gombe State. I know all of them. One of them I was with 3 days ago. He was happy when I told him, hopefully by January, you'll be able to get some remuneration that will go along with improving your salaries and wages. I was so happy, not knowing that it's not going to be January. It's really pathetic and but I must comment and appreciate all the stakeholders across the country for their call, for their support towards making sure that we come and this critical time when we're remembering those that have lost their lives. Already 5 of them were buried. The remaining 2 are facing. We want to wait for their families and also connect the rituals and connect the preparation for the burial.
Could you shed a little more light on this insurance bit that you've spoken about? Because, I mean, we all know predominantly this out-of-pocket payments for a lot of things, health in the country still exists. And even some who say they've got insurance, you find out that it could barely do anything when you get in there at the end of the day. And we also know that some people are grappling with their monthly remuneration. So how do you plan to proceed with this push for insurance across the board for journalists? Yeah.
First of all, by January, February, we are coming up with a committee that we're going to go along with to see how we can come up with what we call new salary scale for journalists in Nigeria. We need support of everybody. This time around, it's not only for NUJ, it's for all professional bodies, NUJ, Bill of Resource, Ratao, and any other organizations who are working in line with our thematic objectives are all invited to come. Let's work together. Let's see how we can come up with a bill that is going to go along with changing the way journalists are being treated in Nigeria. 1. Number 2, the insurance I talk about is health insurance. Health insurance discussion has reached a level. Around July, I visited the Minister of Health. We discussed, and I also visited the ED of NHS, which discussions have reached a level. We are hoping by January, February, we'll come up with a template whereby members, journalists across the country can be able to do. Those that are working under government, the deduction is going to be from the source. For those that are working under private agencies, we'll have like a template whereby people will pay a premium for a year. And at the same time, members will be able to assess quality care from primary health care, secondary health care, up to the tertiary health care without for them to get a very qualitative health care services that is going to go a long way in changing the way of health. And I think this is very, very important. If we achieve this, and I believe the posterity will judge us and history will remember us as those who have come up with a new policy that touch the life of journalists. Losing journalists is not an easy task. Or you can train somebody for 20, 25 years, just within a few minutes or a day, you just lost them. And like I said in one of the interviews with people, that the brain drain is also there. And people are retiring, people are aging, people are leaving this profession because there was no resource, no funding, no remuneration in this profession. But I believe with these initiatives, no doubt we are going to come up with new strategies and new innovations.
Let me just ask this briefly. I mean, I know that I think it was sometime in 2017 when I think it was OGBC when they went on strike for certain payments of their entitlements, and after that strike, the GM resigned. It's rare to hear that journalists went on strike to push for what they need, even though they are the ones who report all of these chaps who go on strike on a regular basis. So if all else fails in this case, will the NLC new come out, in the union come out at the end of the day to see if they will see reason why they need to adhere to some of these things?
Why not? Of course, somebody, let me give you an example. When I was chairman of NGO in Gombe, I promised journalists, I'm going to take insurance premium for all of this. And God has made it. I was sick. And I have to fulfill my part. And I have to look for the resources because I promised I will pay. I said at that particular time, the premium is 7,500. At the cost of it, the family will be able to get access to 1.5 million. Shortly, 3 months after we paid for all journalists. One of us, who is a very young journalist, died. So after he did, 2 weeks after he did, I was able to get an insurance package of 1.5 million. I was presented before the family. And as I'm talking to you, at that particular time, this is more than 15 years. We bought a house of 1.3 million. Today, this house is worth almost 20 million. And the family are still living in the house. And we paid school fees for the 2 daughters he left for 5 years. And the 2 daughters have finished secondary school. As I'm talking to you, this is very, very important for us as journalists. We need to prioritize the issue of insurance. Insurance is critical. Insurance, in fact, insurance, when we're talking of insurance, we're talking of human insurance, we're talking of technological insurance. If your technology today is not good, there is no way you and I can be able to discuss. Because your technology is safe. Safety of journalists is critical. It's very, very important for all of us in this country. Let's prioritize this in the future so that we'll be able to take this profession to a certain level.
Comrade Yahya, condolences really are in place. 6 of those 7 journalists were staff of the Nigerian Television Authority. And the governor the governor has been speaking up about, how we've lost the best of us, and whatnot. But could you tell us, in the course of the conversations that have come up following the death of our comrades, has the governor of the state or anyone spoken about how they're going to help the families of those who have died?
Yeah, I attended the funeral process. I was with the governor. The governor made pronouncement of taking all the bills for those that are hospitalized. And he also promised to give support to families for the burial of their loved ones. And I believe a lot of people are willing and promise to give all necessary support towards people so that we give the burial, give them the fitting burial. Just as of yesterday, we buried 5 who were buried in Gombe. One was taken back to her base in Kano State, where she was buried there. She was buried there. So we believe the support is there, and I must commend the state government and all other stakeholders for their love and for their passion towards making sure that it is taking care of government and all other things are going to consider. And I believe they must also commend it. Thank you.
The FRSC yesterday, we had them on the program, and they said it was a tire burst that caused this accident. But we also stay talking a lot about emergency services along highways. This accident happened on their way back from Kaltungo, Biliri Kumo Road. They were coming back from that wedding. Are there any emergency services on that highway? Because, when it came to Anthony Joshua's situation, everyone kept talking about how many emergency services were on that particular highway and how they can respond to these sorts of situations on time. Along that road, is there any kind of emergency service along that Biliri Kumo Road?
Yes, in this case, I must appreciate the rest of people because from the time of the incident, the time they arrived, less than 10 minutes, and the 5 already were engaged on the spot. One of them is in the hospital. So the emergency service is there, and I know SEMA also, personnel were also around the area. It's a very busy road, it's a Yola road. So along the road, about 3 spots whereby the emergency services of respective stations across the road. And from where they had from the 2 local governments, just less than 20 minutes drive. So I believe that is why I can say that within 2 minutes they were there. It's all the most commended. And I must also appreciate police in this particular. They have done wonderfully well.
When it comes to these sorts of situations, and I think you've touched on it a little bit with my colleague Chamberlain, the kind of protections that journalists need, health insurance, you know, making sure that we live lives that do not compromise us, lives that do not put us in a situation where, you know, when things like this happen, we start to wonder what kind of lives we've been living all this while. And I know that in the course of your job as president, you've always championed causes that had to do with the welfare of journalists. I think you mentioned a few of them, but for 2026, as a journalist in this country, what are some of the things that we should be expecting from your office? You know, that the Nigerian journalists will say, look, as long as Comrade Yahaya is there, this is what we are going to enjoy as journalists in 2026. This is what the situation was before, and he's putting an end to that right now.
Well, in 2026, I thank God I have told you this earlier in one of the programs whereby you anchored the program. And I believe in 2026, we are prioritizing issues of remuneration for Nigerian journalists, one, and health insurance for Nigerian journalists, life insurance for Nigerian journalists, and training for journalists in this country. These four things are two things that we are going to prioritize in 2026. And we will commence this from January. And at the same time, we are also developing a national strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan for the union. It has never happened in this country. We are hoping by February, March, we'll come up with that plan. When this plan is going to be developed, within the plan, all activities of council chapters across the country is going to be incorporated, and it's going to go a long way. By the time we are doing an activity, it's going to be extracted from that strategic plan, and it's going to be implemented in line with the resources available.
Well, we're expecting that probably you have to be more dogged in that demand so you can get results from perhaps the political authorities, because next year, you know that their attention may be divided. They will be preparing for campaigns, elections here and there. So it means that you have to perhaps double your effort in the demand to make sure that these things are gotten.
Already, our legislators were right who are going to sponsor the bill. The most important thing, we need to come at this is the time for us to blow the trumpet for us. We have been blowing trumpet for others, but this is the time for us. And let's work as a team. Let everybody come and give this massive support towards to change the narrative. Journalism profession is dying day by day. The remuneration is very, very poor. Journalists are suffering. Journalists are not born to suffer. And I think it's high time for all of us to come up with new innovations, new ideas, so that we can transform the profession whereby everybody will be happy and everyone will be smiling at the end of the month.
Do you have any latest word, any latest information from the families of those who lost their loved ones?
Yeah, for the two remaining data colleagues at Christians, our discussions is already ongoing with the family, in line with the teachings, in line with the rituals, in line with the norms and values. We'll wait for them to finish their planning. At the end of the day, the union is able to support and give them all the different areas as required.
Okay, well, so we do thank you for at least some of the attention that we're bringing on this matter. So we hope that at least we'll focus a lot more and ensure that their welfare is properly taken care of. So before we wrap up, could you just, today happens to be, of course, the last day of the year. And I mean, those of us who are alive, we kind of just thank God for keeping us alive, because as we're just talking about, some didn't see this day, which is the last day of the year. And unfortunately, we hope everybody will do what they can to stay safe and see the first day of next year. So what is it that stood out for you in this profession, in your coverage, in your carrying out your duties this year, 2025, in this country?
Well, in 2025, we look at the data that was released by Reporters Without Borders. It shows that we still have issues in Nigeria. Issues around intimidation, issues around harassment, issues around arresting journalists without trust, and so on. And I believe time is over. We need to change all those things in 2026. Already, discussions have reached at a level, and I must use this opportunity to appreciate one of the security agencies in this country, the way they are coming up with the strategy of partnering with journalists is very, very important, and I must commend the head of that agency. This new innovation, one innovation is, I believe, is going to take all of us to greater heights. And if you look at the relationship, it's one relationship that if somebody is not invited directly to invite the leadership of the union and harassing, not intimidation, not witch-hunting journalists. We need to work as a team so that we can be able to take this country to the greater height. In 2026, we were hoping that things will work as expected and things will work smoothly. In this, I want to use this opportunity to wish all journalists in Nigeria happy New Year in advance.
So, tell us about, for instance, how we report security-related issues in this country. We know that there's been several questions as to security agencies either embedding journalists so that we can get proper information concerning what happened in a particular area, the proper figures, because most times you see when an accident or strike or anything happens, there are always conflicting figures. And then, of course, the attitude of security agencies to reporters who are carrying their duties usually leaves a lot to be desired. Does this raise, I mean, have you broached this topic with NUJ or with the authorities? What do you think of it?
Yeah, for the police side, we'll see ways of discussing with them in 2026. But the truth of the matter, like I told you, the DSA have come up with new innovations of working together. And for the first time in the history of this country, the journalists were harassed in Plateau State when the president visited that country. The DSA come out and apologize. And this has never happened in this country. And this is the kind of engagement, this is the kind of relation we want to have with all the security personnel. And I hope and I pray police will also emulate so that we can work as a team. By the time we are working as a team, no doubt we'll change the narrative and we'll take our country to safety the police. Police should also open doors for journalists. Let's work as brothers and sisters. And journalists also should work in line with the support of topics. We should not just be working without verifying the report, and we should work in line with teaching, not just because we are doing anything without confirmation. I think the other thing is gone, and I want to say that 2026 will prioritize issues of training and retraining of our members. This is very, very important because without training, no one will be able to know the new teachings, the new theories, and the new techniques of this profession.
All right, then, Al Hassan Yahya, National President, Nigeria Union of Journalists, thank you for your time this morning, and we wish you all the best in your tenure as you get those push for what is needed.
Thank you, somebody.
Okay, so 2025 was a year of pressure, pain, and profound loss. As a matter of fact, there were, beyond the headlines, I mean, headlines of politics, we bid farewell to some men and women who played key roles in the lives of different people in this country. Today, we pause to remember the voices that went silent, the legacies that endured, prominent Nigerians whose death marked at least the passing of an era. This is end of an era. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. It's the last day of the year. You have to have a big smile on your face. Why can't you just... You have to thank God you're alive at this point in time, no matter what the challenges are. Because when there's life, you know what they say, there's hope. So we've got Mr. Lalu joining us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good to see you guys.
What a year it's been. Good to see you too. What a year it's been. What stands out for you this year, by the way? I know there are a couple of things.
There are several things, but I will, well, we've got to be thankful for all the ups and downs and that we are still standing, even as a nation. But I think, for me, it's the intervention of the Americans in our security situation that stands out to be the most significant event of the year, in my view.
Well, I saw those images, and goodness me, they were gory pictures. I mean, people will have, I think some call it nightmare, others call it bad dream, terrible scenarios. And they said it was about 750 that were decimated with that strike. And having those 16 Tomahawks, that's quite a number.
Yeah.
But then, in terms of how, maybe from this end, government authorities handling of this matter, information dissemination, security agencies going in to give us the real picture, the presidency also responding properly. What's your assessment of the whole picture?
That wasn't done well at all, you know, to the extent that the federal government left Nigerians guessing whether indeed there was a collaboration. You know, it took retired General Antonio Atolagbe on inside sources to explain that actually the NAF, the Air Force, was also involved in what happened during that Tomahawk missiles. Nobody told Nigerians anything. And that kind of information brought some kind of relief that, okay, those who thought that maybe this was something that was forced on us, if you had, you know, our own, you know, troops, our own forces also coordinating, collaborating, and you showed us the evidence, that will increase the level of confidence. So generally, you know, again, it goes back to the poor coordination that the president has tolerated for too long. We didn't have any kind of information from the presidency. The president spoke.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs,
yes,
spoke to us on that matter.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
There was also some information from the Minister of Information as well.
Even before that, there was a statement.
Okay.
There was a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Minister of Foreign Affairs then even spoke here on channels, you know, and then the Minister of Information. But my point is that the president, in the U.S., it was President Donald Trump that said this had happened. Our president,
so he led the charge.
Our president has kept quiet. And I'm beginning to wonder, you know, the problem, part of the problem must be about the people who speak to the president and who cancel the president. Somebody needed to have told the president that you can't leave the country without addressing that major event, unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. And then you just left the country, no word, nothing. Up till now, the president has not spoken about that.
I mean, when you say left the country, in fact, we don't know where he is. Let's figure he's in Europe somewhere.
He's in Europe, yeah.
Somewhere in Europe. They don't
Maybe France.
Well, we don't know. They don't tell us exactly where he is. But you see, that's the thing about this administration. It gives a lot of room for speculations. We start to ask, where is he? What happened? Is he sick? Is he this? And then all of these rumors come, and then you now start to see the reaction. Oh, it's the enemies of the government that are spreading these rumors. Well, you kept the vacuum there for the Nigerian people to make speculations. Yeah. I want to go back to the strike. You were saying the Nigerian government didn't lead the charge, which is what many people are saying. The presidency didn't lead the charge. Yeah. Do you remember during the Buhari administration where there was one communication about a bombing that was supposed to happen in Borno? And by the time the military got there, every terrorist was wearing a gas mask.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, well, yeah.
So is it possible that they were trying to prevent that from happening?
That was, I think that was under Jonathan. It was
under Jonathan's administration.
Yeah.
So is it possible that the fears of a leak will be the reason why no one wants to talk? No. Because that was very shocking. The fact that they came and everybody had a gas mask on.
Of course, you know, that pointed to possible collusion within the security agencies who knew what was going to happen and who had leaked information, you know. But in this case, it's just, we have to begin to put the people who advise the president, we have to begin to put them to task. And maybe we have to start calling their names if they don't feel this guy. You can't have, look, the people around the president or any principal, they are very significant. And you hold that principal a duty to always show him and tell him the things that he doesn't want to hear. You know, but if you have a situation where in the U.S., President Trump says this is what had happened, we needed to have our own president to also tell us what has happened.
At this rate, are we going to have a New Year's address by the president? Is it 31st?
Oh, because it's going to Europe. Is in Europe?
He's in Europe.
Which you suspect to be France?
We hope that
did he record it before he left?
Pre-recorded message, you know.
Or maybe they're waiting to speak to us on, maybe through that message. Speak to Nigerians on this bombing.
Well, I mean, so there should be a New Year Day message, and it has to talk about that. I mean, come on, it would be terrible
if it doesn't speak about the bombing on the New Year message.
When was the recording done?
Well, I don't know. I'm just assuming.
No, do you understand my point? Because it's not long after the strikes happened that he left. So was the recording done on the day of the strikes? Was the recording done on Christmas Day? You see, that's the thing with lack of communication, is that we start to ask too many questions.
Yeah, I mean, and that's my point, that look, some of us have spent a lot of time calling out the president. I think maybe we have to start calling out the people that are around. Who are the people speaking to the president? Is it that the president is not listening? Well, because some of these things are so basic, so elementary.
So that's the next question I'm going to ask. Because, I mean, no matter who advises you, whichever category, whichever stage of life you are in, you also are expected to have some sort of level of, I mean, it's either you take the advice or you don't.
Yeah.
They don't control you. It's not a must that you must follow the advice.
Yeah.
So there's no time in the presidency while you were there where you advise the president and he thinks, no, but I think we have to go this way. Yeah. This is the way it has to be.
Yeah.
So, well, you know, are we going to just leave it on those who advise him?
Well, you know, yeah, of course, it's a balance. And I even think that to the extent that it's the president that was elected, it's the president that holds the highest level of authority. You know, but because of my own experience, you know, and I didn't advise the president, I advised the vice president. You know, there were instances when, you know, when we are in this kind of situation, the vice president will call people. You know, I mean, he doesn't even wait for it. He will call people. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. You know, there's going to be a deliberation, and he's asking, you know, what should we do? What are you guys hearing? What is happening? You know, I mean, that is the kind of way that you also, as a principal, that you ensure that your advisors are up to task. But even if the principal is not doing that, because you are also there, you know, and you are a professional, you know what ought to happen, you need to go and tell the president and say, hey, this is, look, for instance, we had meetings when we were in office, and we had we have what they call the presidential commission team. We met weekly. The vice president was the chair of it. And there were a lot of times we told the president that, look, you have to do press interviews.
The president or the vice president?
No, the president. That you had to do press interviews. You had to be more engaging with the people. He didn't want to hear that. He didn't listen. But we didn't stop telling him that, look, you have to. And we were telling Gaba and Femi, you know, that, look, I mean, Lai Mohammed was there, I was there. You know, the vice president was chairing the meeting. You know, my point is that you have to tell your principal the things he didn't want to hear. Well, you have to tell him.
Well, you were not the cabal, you know. At least based on revelations, recent revelations, that president, he was listening more to the cabal than to you. Is it possible that the same thing is happening here? Because if we start to call out the spokespersons of the president, behind the scenes, they will tell you, we told him.
Well, so that's the point.
Is there a cabal that has stood in the middle, so you can't reach him as a spokesperson?
Well, we have to build our democratic space to the point where those working with the president, we know that we are also going to be calling you out if we don't see the president doing the things that are so elementary, that are so commonsensical. So that you have to explain to us that, no, this is what happened. I mean, so that the president themselves will know that there are options that you cannot take. Look, all the things that are happening now that we don't know, you just wait. We're going to find out. You know, ultimately, people will know whether the president was properly advised or not. So it makes sense to say that if you are the president's advisor on communication, for instance, you should have had a conversation with the president that, okay, Mr. President, you want to travel, that's fine and good, but you can't go until you have spoken to the people. You hold the president that. Mr. Bayo Ononuga, did you do that? Sonny Dari, did you do that? We need to know. Because that behavior is completely below par. I mean, we know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Democrat. How did he do it that he did not address his own people? and then he left the country. You know, when clearly Trump was actively engaging his own people on an unprecedented attack. We need to ask Mr. Onunga, what is your job? Sonny Dari, what is your job if you cannot advise the president properly? And if you did, we need to know.
Yeah, because, I mean, it borders on putting the people first.
Yeah.
If you take the people so seriously, you have to speak to the
You
people.
have to,
or else they will assume you don't care about them.
We must build this democracy. We must increase democratic space. If we don't do it, nobody is going to do it for us. It is up to us. It is up to us, and this is the time to do it.
For instance now, many are just finding out, or maybe as the cases progress, there will be more information. The EFCC versus Malami, former Attorney General of the Federation.
Yeah.
People are surprised. What is going on? EFCC says it's an alleged 8.7 billion naira matter. So you just wonder when this amount of money, or what public officials do with the funds. Were you surprised when you heard this?
Well, I was shocked, you know, at the kind of sums of money that was being quoted, you know, and the curious part of me as a journalist, I have questions about some of those data, you know. What kind of property is going to be valued in Kebbi, you know, in that billions? It's Kebbi State. I think whoever did those estimations, you know, overdid it. But what I know about what happened in the Buhari administration, clearly Malami has a lot of questions to answer. Tons. I've not even seen some of them in the charges. I think yesterday's charges were just, you know, a few things. There were more controversial things that Abubakar Malami put his hands to in government.
Such as?
There were times when discussions had to come up, in fact, where people said, that is fraudulent. No, I don't want to go into the details just so, you know, I don't inhibit investigation, like I said, and the matter is in court. But my point is that I hope that EFCC will take this matter all the way to the end. I hope this is not some kind of political stuff that, okay, well, they said we should go after him. Because the kind of questions under the 8-year regime of Abubakar Malami, you know, in this country is unprecedented. A former Attorney General of the Federation, according to Empowered Diswire yesterday, said he might behave insane. That was a former Attorney General. You know, so the information available about the behavior, the irregularities of Malami's tenure, they are so deep that one hopes that this is not just a theater. One hopes that this matter will be taken to its logical conclusion. It's not that one day they will just tell us, oh, the case fizzles out.
If he joins APC.
If he joins APC. That's my point. That this matter should be done diligently. The only way EFCC can come out clearly on this matter is to ensure that they pursue this matter to its logical conclusion. And whoever are the people doing the estimation, no, come on, we don't need exaggerations.
Well, you don't know. This is the interior of the house. You may have gold pillars, you know, in the diamond-crusted
those things
chairs.
make it seem as if you're just trying to ramp it up. You don't need to ramp anything up. Malami put his hand in a lot of controversial things. And it is in the interest of the public that we get to the end of the matter. We don't want to hear...
I mean, his narrative is that this is a political witch hunt. That's his narrative.
And that is the reason why we need to have a
diligent...
I don't think it's political witch hunt. But we have to be able to show, ultimately, that it is not. Because at times, some of these people just say, you know what, I'll just lie low. You know, maybe if I'm involved in political activities, I'll just stop. Maybe they'll leave me. And that has happened over and over again.
Well, he didn't. He was vocal. He said he wanted to. He wants to be in politics. He was really out there.
That's what I'm saying.
So it does feel like some people actually expected this to happen to him.
So I'm saying that I'm hoping
because he wasn't going to do it under the APC. So many people suspected that he was going to be, you know, witch hunted, so to speak. Right. And I think that's the wave he's riding on right now in the narratives about the situation.
So the point is that this has to be done properly, diligently, so that we take away those doubts of whether it's a witch hunt.
So all eyes on EFCC.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
So, and then don't forget the one for in 2025 as well. The former NNDPRA, NUPRC, I beg your pardon, So we haven't heard anything of that matter. Maybe they're still investigating.
Yeah.
But next year when politics starts, maybe they'll sweep it under the...
Yeah, I think I have some information about the
Oh,
ICPC.
fantastic.
I think they are continuing with the investigation.
Great.
Okay.
Based on my own reporting, ICPC has invited, all the people involved, including Alhaji Aliko Dangote, to
give their testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So she was the whistleblower.
Yeah, so we have to encourage the chairman of ICPC to go ahead and finish the job. We need all these things to go to its logical conclusion so that we can set a deterrence. That is how we can begin to build this country if we are serious at all.
What do you expect will happen ahead of this taxation for 2026, the new policy?
Well, I agree that we need to have tax reform in the country. Look, I mean, Temari and Kela, people don't pay taxes in Nigeria. And that is part of the reason why there are no outrages. That is why everybody can sit down and just say, you know what, government is doing their own, I'm doing my own. But when we are compelled, when they go into our pockets and we put our money there...
Don't put that in my pockets.
I think that the level of the demand for accountability, I believe it will go up. And that's what we need. That's what we need. We need our government to be accountable. But if our money is not in there, the chances are not very, very good.
So, of course, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But they should be rest assured there'll be a lot more questions. And they shouldn't just travel and think they won't answer us when it comes to tax matter. It's a different matter entirely. Thank you for coming on, and we wish you the best of the rest of the year and the year ahead, 2026.
Happy New Year.
Yes, indeed. The same thing to all our viewers. I mean, I also have to thank God myself, 2025. What a year it's been. So I'm looking ahead for next year because it will be a fantastic year, no matter what happens around me. That's what I decided anyway. So thank you all for watching. We hope you make it a fantastic rest of the year and next year as well. Until then, I'm Chamberlain. So goodbye.
Indeed, have a wonderful day ahead. Be safe tonight. A lot of you will be going to church, going to places of worship over the night. Be safe, be conscious of your surroundings. And hey, let's have a wonderful new year, 2026, in just a few hours.
Tax or not, yeah.
Tax or not.
Okay.
Election
we'll try.
Let's try and be happy next year.
We'll try.
I'm Kayla Megwa. Enjoy the rest of the last day of 2025.